Okay, so our next game is Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, which was nominated by Soup32 from Canadian iTunes several months ago. I'm sorry it took us so long to get to you. I remember when that was about the time we said, hey, give us a review on iTunes, 5 stars, we'll fast track it. And then everybody did that. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't fast tracked in the end. It was just regular tracked. But thank you, Soup32. This is a great game. It was developed by Konami Computer Entertainment Japan and published by Konami for the PS2. There are HD updates and such, I think, now. Its earliest release date and territory was December 22nd, 2005. It doesn't feel like that long ago, but, you know.
And is it pronounced subsistence or subsistence?
I would say subsistence, like subsist.
Because it's substance and subsistence, I think.
Is it subsistence or subsistence?
I always thought it was, because my favorite part, and I have a lot of favorite parts of Metal Gear Solid 3, it is one of my favorite games about just being there. It is one of those games where if you just plop me in it, I'll just sit around and look at frogs or find frogs for like an hour. As many people play Skyrim or Proteus or any of these other modern games where it's just about being in a space and enjoying the space. I love it, and I love finding things to eat. I will just play a eating-only run of Metal Gear Solid 3 because of the subsistence. I want to eat those frogs, those tree frogs. So fun.
I thought it was like subsistence because you subsist off the land, like you forage in the jungle. Am I okay? So this is just a Wikipedia search away.
Is this the first time someone has compared Metal Gear Solid 3 to Proteus?
Oh yeah. Because they're both games about just being in the woods. It's fun for me.
The Woods is a huge gamble on the PlayStation 2, by the way. Just so we can talk about the game off this side. Yeah. It's crazy. Like, let's make a PlayStation 2 game a heavily organic wooded area. That's madness.
Right. Tons of flowing grass.
It's the one area that was untouched from the original Metal Gear games. Is they? I think it was the first one started you out in like the forest, right, in the jungle somewhere. Mm-hmm. And they didn't really do that with Metal Gear Solid.
Nope.
There were some outdoor really sections, but yeah, I mean, it would have been. Oh yeah,
snowy. It was very. And to be fair, Metal Gear Solid, they didn't have much to work with in terms of polygon power, so they had to try to make things pretty flat and not too complicated in terms of the geometry. Metal Gear Solid 2, they didn't have much of an excuse there. They just wanted to be on a boat, I guess.
There was one excuse, and that is one little minor technical difference between MGS2 and 3. MGS2 runs at 60 FPS. 3 chunks it down to 30. So they really wanted MGS2 to crank out 60, and then when it came to 3, they were like, we want trees.
Yeah.
Everybody's already got a PS2. We don't have to sell them on it.
Exactly.
30.
True. And they sold them on Metal Gear Solid 3 twice on that. One of the few games to get a remaster in the same generation just a couple of years later, which is the version we're talking about. First it came out as Metal Gear Solid 3, and then they added They added the original Metal Gear 2 to the package for the PS2 re-release.
Yeah, so Subsistence. It is indeed Subsistence.
It is.
Not that it matters.
No, it's good. Now I know. Thank you.
But according to Wikipedia, which I will quote verbatim, because it is the sole arbiter of truth in the 21st century, Subsistence eschews the extra single-player missions to include updated versions of the series' first 2 games, Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. A brand new competitive online mode, a fully 3D user-controlled. I didn't do any of that crap.
I played the heck out of that. Games, though. You could be one of the Rumble Roses wrestlers in that was the original Metal Gear Solid Online, as far as I recall, and they had Rumble Roses. Say again?
Oh, those servers have been off for years, so you can no longer do any of that.
I loved it. I had a great time, and I'm very uncompetitive. I do not care about winning against people and things. But again, just being in the world and seeing what was happening was a lot of fun. The bosses in Metal Gear Solid 3. The one who's just a guy whose eyeballs go in two different directions, and he sits in a tree for literally an hour, and you just sit there, wait for something to happen. I loved it.
It's boss fights are incredible. Yeah,
the bosses are definitely the take home. I think this is the peak period before. Look, I think in Metal Gear Solid, especially Metal Gear Solid 4, but also 5, it went too wacky. It went too crazy. Like all the bosses just like we're crazy things that just do wacky, insane things.
I mean, this one did have the guy who is
this
literally
one has
the
them,
guy
but
who
I feel that there's a
surrounded
kind of,
by bees and shoots bees out of his mouth.
I know, but it works so much. Like it feels more reasonable, and maybe it's because it might be because this one is set in the Cold War and it's not pumping nanomachines directly into your vein. So it's just kind of like, well, this guy has, he's like some weird like Soviet kind of thing going on, even though I think they're not Soviets. I think
like
they're
a swarm of hornets. Like, there's another guy who will hold bullets between his fingers and use electricity powers to burst the.
That guy's actually the only one that bothers me because they never explain anything. He just shouts a lot with him.
Yeah. Doesn't he grab Raiden by the genitalia? Raiden, I'm sorry. I always mispronounced that.
Yeah, no, they grab both each other's genitalia, basically. They both do the crutch grab.
It's mutual. Yeah, it's mutual.
So I love that Metal Gear Solid 3 is willing to go so hard with video game logic again. While starting you off without any video game logic. Like, it starts off like, we're going to be serious.
Yeah.
This is Rambo again, except it's got some 007 music, so it's like both of your most ultra-masculine Hollywood heroes in a video game. Video games are so grown up now. They're James Bond and Rambo together. And then B-Guy shows up. And then later there's a ghost.
And right after B-Guy is the crocodile hat. Don't forget that.
It's so good.
But the Ghost guy is superb though. Like he is like he could fit in like a serious genuine production. Like he just works really well.
So let's really quickly, since we talked about Metal Gear Solid way back in episode.
What was that long ago? Was it?
No, I mean, we don't write down what episodes. Speak for yourself, dude. 17. The clock is ticking on me. I don't. Yeah, 17. All right. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff about this gameplay is kind of the same. It builds on it, but it adds, as we said, the foraging thing. Like you have a stamina meter, right? And you can refill it by stabbing animals and eating them. And then you get like little.
Otherwise, you just collapse, right?
Yeah, you'll die, right? So you can.
You'll die just from that.
You'll die. And you can also kill the bosses by depleting their stamina, which is, of course, really cool.
That's the only way I beat that sniping bosses. Oh, but he knows photosynthesis.
No, it's the one that you can trick is the fear, the lizardy guy. If you give him poison food, he gets, like, screwed over by it.
Oh, right.
This is the game where you can also, like, you can blow up, like, the ration shed earlier in the game, and it makes like so you can hear the guards coming because their stomachs are growling. Am I remembering that correctly?
So what I love about it over Metal Gear Solid 1, which I just cannot get into, there are so many little points of connection you can make with this game. Through the cutscenes are often interactive, and you can like find secrets within the cutscenes. There's this weird dream sequence where it's suddenly like Metal Gear Solid. I'm sorry, like Devil May Cry, which was kind of an up and comer at the time that was often talked about. It
was a game that they ultimately canceled. So that's the only thing that you'll ever see from that project.
That's right.
That dream sequence is removed from most of the other ports of the game. I don't even know if it's in Subsistence or just the original, but
I think it is in Subsistence.
It might be in Subsistence, but they definitely removed it in later re-releases, which is a shame because that was a neat little touch.
It sure was. So there's so many different ways you can find a point of connection with this game, and that's what makes me so happy.
It also adds the camo system, right?
Yeah, another point of connection, and the way it embraces video game logic so hard with such a straight face. It makes it like the top secret. Like, it's totally a comedy game for me, like, without...
because you can change your pants, like, instantly. Like, just, you're like a quick change artist. You're just like, camo, I'm done.
Have you seen the movie Top Secret by Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker, who did Airplane?
Airplane, and yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't know... The script doesn't know it's a comedy, but they shot it like a comedy. And that's how I feel about Metal Gear Solid 3. I'm losing my voice all of a sudden. Too excited.
I mean,
about
the question with Metal Gear Solid 3, and I think the whole franchise, is obviously, the main guy, Kojima. Mm-hmm. I don't know how serious he is most of the time, because I think he feels very serious, and the game works because I think he's serious, and it's just but it's absolutely wacky.
Well, I think by Metal Gear Solid 3, he wanted to quit, and they wouldn't let him. So I think this was the beginning of his passive-aggressive but also sincere phase.
I do like the idea that he couldn't, it's like, I want to quit, and they're like, no, you're not quitting. It's like, all right, I guess I'll keep working then.
That's my understanding.
What kind of blackmail did they have on him, right? Like, you're going to keep making Solid Snake games forever.
I think they had a golden noose on him. They were like, here's more money. Please make it. Here's more money. So he couldn't say no.
He worked for a Japanese company. Whatever it wasn't money.
Well, he's out now, so good for him.
But a big part about the approach of this game I think does try to does it have slightly more pathos than the previous Metal Gears? I think it tries to slip in a little bit more like war is bad kind of deal.
Oh, sure. Well, the last boss, if I remember correctly, spoilers again, you've got this mentor for the whole game. She's like the first middle-aged woman in video games that I know of, like at all.
Ever.
And she's like conventionally attractive, but not in a way that makes her seem artificial. She seems very real in terms of both her look and her character.
Right.
And then you're forced to...
Like a C cup, B cup. Right?
Well, she's surprisingly conventional in even like a Kojima game, where in the same game you have like a woman who's wearing a jumpsuit, which is just kind of like, like
she just zips it
cleavage everywhere.
But Kojima, equal opportunity. There's tons of male sexuality in his games too.
I mean, we said the crotch grab. It's very clear that he's just kind of like, whatever. I feel like putting this in the game. But so the final boss.
Yeah, the final boss battle, if I remember correctly, you have this incredibly dramatic moment where the player is more or less given no choice to kill this mentor character, and it waits for you to press the button, or else you can't move forward without them being shot and killed. So it can be very serious at times, but for the most part, a straight-faced send-up of video game logic and movie logic conventions combined in one.
Well, also, as I said, it's set in the Cold War, and I think what's really cool about that is it downgraded Metal Gear. Like, you got rid of your radar, it introduced the camera system, so it's like, it actually, it doesn't just, it doesn't say, oh, well, it's Metal Gear in the past. It's actually, no, it is Metal Gear in the past. You actually lose equipment that you previously took advantage of.
Sure.
If I could add, kind of to drag this back and maybe bring it around, the thing for me that makes Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, oh, okay, I'm interested suddenly in Metal Gear, is they gave it a camera that wasn't bullshit.
Big time.
And I actually, solely based on your recommendation, Jonathan, I actually played Metal Gear Solid for the first time a year and a half ago, and it's because you likened it to Pac-Man, and it's the only way I could get my head around it. It's just it's like a maze.
I was slagging off on the poor game earlier, sort of for goofs, because I do like Metal Gear Solid when I pretend it's Pac-Man. But if I don't pretend it's Pac-Man, I get really sad and I have to stop.
I think that's a fascinating comparison, and I kind of, when I approached from that, I was like, oh, I'm kind of enjoying myself. But given the choice between that and a camera that is mounted to a right stick, oh my god.
And really organic environments that didn't feel...
Yeah, you get to see all the beautiful environments that they put tons of effort into.
Sure. Each one is a little playground that you can approach in multiple ways, which I'm sure is also true of Metal Gear Solid, but maybe it's just the way I played it.
I think felt a little bit more so in this game, yeah. I agree.
Yeah, you think so too? Yeah.
Well, as you said, there's all these animals and stuff running around too, and you get to... It feels actually alive in the environment, which... for a game that is about running around and choking people and killing bosses, to have an actual environment that is an environment is pretty it's pretty neat.
Absolutely.
Where do we want to put this one? I mean, because we gotta look at this. It is better than Metal Gear Solid, but can we rank it above Metal Gear Solid? Does it exist without Metal Gear Solid? Is it?
You know what I'm gonna say.
I know what you're gonna say. Yeah, but I mean, I can't recommend Metal Gear Solid over this game. I can't. I kind of feel bad that we ranked if I had known MGS3 was coming, I think we would have ranked Metal Gear Solid differently, because this is the Metal Gear Solid game to play. And Subsistence in particular, because it's got the MSX games attached to it, which can't totally rank literally, but we have to factor that in, like, because it was specifically nominated.
Well, as Jeff said, the camera angle, and it's one of the main things. You had Metal Gear Online and the camera change. That was probably the two biggest inclusions in Subsistence. And we were very specifically asked to do Subsistence. It wasn't MGS3, it was Subsistence. So the camera change is pivotal in this game.
Vital.
For this one.
I will also say, though, about MGS3 is it does do something which I really hate about modern game design, which is adds a whole bunch of extra collectathon like crap, like checklist stuff. Like, did you get all the animals? Did you get all the did you get all the little frog figurines? What are they called? Caro-chan?
I love those frog figurines.
I hate them.
I love any excuse to go. If I love being in a game's world, I love any excuse to go.
You passed the point of no return. You can't get that animal anymore.
Am I remembering this right, guys? Or am I having a problem? Wouldn't be the first time I had a problem. Was it Ape Escape? Oh, yeah. So there are Ape Escape
is a mini game.
Monkeys, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. But there was also you could be a snake monkey in, I think, Ape Escape 3.
In Ape Escape 2, I believe there's I think it's 2. I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3. Sorry, but yeah, they definitely include they did like a crossover, which is this amazing crossover. Like Ape Escape, Metal Gear Solid. Let's throw them in each other's games. What a nice thing to do.
Snake versus monkey is kind of cool, but. Anyway, my point is simply that there was, like, I think too much extra stuff added for its own good, and that was the start of a downward spiral in Metal Gear Solid games. It just gotten. Some people love that, but I hate it. Like, I really hate it.
The flag here is that I think, and I said this a little earlier in a way, was I think this is the one. This is the Metal Gear that kind of sits at that transition point where it's like, let's add all this cool stuff, and let's not have too much of Kojima doing some really just like stuff that's just piles and piles and piles of fan service and piles of crazy crap. It's got a nice balance where it's like I can still kind of feel how this is connected to MGS 1 and 2, but it also does include so much extra richness in it before that richness kind of becomes bloat. So I think it's good. I think it sits in that point.
I think that in terms of content and in terms of the line between trying to suspend disbelief and going surreal, it's also at the perfect point in the series where the Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, for me, weren't quite weird enough. They felt a little bit like they were sincerely just trying to be movies, and that kind of bored me. Whereas Metal Gear Solid 3 gives you a little bit more of that video game logic early on, but doesn't go so far into throwing camp and nonsense at you nonstop, like how I think the later Metal Gear Solid games did. So I like it a lot.
I mean, I put it above 3. Sorry, I put Metal Gear Solid. I put 3 just one above it. Like, I just put it above it in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
it's funny how we occasionally wind up with these little clusters on this list of very like games, and I think this is actually a acceptable case for it happening. Honestly,
I mean,
it is. It's
I mean, like we say, like, oh, we might have ranked Metal Gear Solid lower. I don't think so. I think these two games are considered kind of two pinnacle games. There's a reason that Kojima is regarded as a really fantastic creative. There's a reason the franchise is so well respected, and I do think it's MGS1 and MGS3. They're the two games that are just like, wow, what great games for when they were available.
Absolutely.
MGS3 is still a great game. I think that's what puts it above MGS1. Whereas MGS1, it's really hard to recommend it to newcomers. I would always tell them to start with MGS3. I also want to point out that, like, there's a lot of the detail stuff that after MGS3, it's no longer admirable. It's just kind of like, oh my god, are you still doing this? Like, just stop, just stop.
Alone in Metal
right,
Gear
like, well, I mean,
like
I think it was gratuitous in the original Metal Gear Solid, the cutscene stuff. Like, I really don't like that that aspect of his game design, the storytelling type thing. Like, I'm pure mechanics. I want to be snapping necks left and right, but
well, they improved the neck snapping in 3. What a great addition!
They improved a lot of stuff.
Snapping is a bit better. Yeah, that's true.
I came at these games from an even weirder angle because I actually went to graduate school and studied nuclear regulatory security stuff, and at one point was interested in doing like safeguards implementation for nuclear power plants in the United States. And playing these games, like going through this like kind of weird auteur video game director's version of like nuclear proliferation 101 was fascinating.
Did they teach you what the code was to the football?
I can't tell you too many things about what they taught me. I can
tell you. I can tell you what it was up until like about like 1991 or something.
Oh,
wow!
It was 0000. They never changed it.
What?
That was the code. It was never up. Like the default code for the briefcase was 0.
I'm so scared for our world.
Oh yeah. Well, luckily now they've changed it, and Trump can only keep track of 3 numbers at a time. So there's 4 on the briefcase.
Hopefully, we'll be safe. Sure, I feel safe now.
So that's Metal Gear Solid 3. I mean, we didn't really have any dissent. I don't think.
Metal Gear Solid. I would put it. You know what? I'm gonna say I would put it above Doom.
Wow. Me too.
It's so gamey. That's the thing. It's gamey, not like gamey like squirrel meat gamey. I'm just talking like gamey.
Yeah, but it will. It doesn't force one flavor down your throat for any length of time. It'll let you just relax in a fake world for a while. Then it'll give you a very movie-influenced cutscene, and then it'll just total video game logic for you. It gives you so many different points of connection.
Is it? I can't remember. Is it the first Metal Gear Solid game where in the cutscenes you can switch to the character's eye view?
Yeah, as far as I remember. I think they might have done some of that in... No, I don't think they did in Twin Snakes. I think that it was the first one. And it's also the first one that I know of that has live action elements in some of the cutscenes where
That's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I love that stuff. FMV.
I mean, like this is definitely the first one where you can interact within the cutscenes. I think because obviously you can, there's you can shoot the end, which is phenomenal that you can do that during the gameplay. In the fixed segment.
I'm with you 100% above Doom.
Okay,
I can handle that. I've got, I only put it above MGS because I was like, well, it probably should go at least above it. I'm fine with above Doom. I think that's.
So Tinga right now is going to be having the proverbial cow.
Oh yeah, freaking out. I have a hard time putting it above Link to the Past, to be perfectly honest. But
I was going to put Link to the Past at 1. That's
Bobinator. You want to back me up?
Bobinator's too busy updating his resume for like other podcasts.
I'm sorry, I just figured you guys had this in the bag. I will go wherever you have up.
Jeff really wants you to be like, no, put it below Link to the Past.
I will say, like, I would put. I mean, here's the thing:
again, nostalgia. It's a hell of a drug. Got to put it below Link to the Past.
Wow.
Okay.
I think that still makes it 3-2. Though.
Okay, so
it does make it 3-2. We're still kind of above it as a general consensus. I mean, the thing is, like, as you're saying, like, Metal Gear Solid 3 is kind of peak video game in a lot of ways. Like, this is everything that you can say is good about video games compared to other media is in this game. Mm-hmm.
But it's also just sloppy enough to be endearing, like in a way that I have to applaud. Like, there's a lot of shagginess to this that I enjoy.
Which to me is peak video game. Like, my favorite video games that try to be cinematic fail at it in a fun way that ends up making fun of movies a little bit and making fun of just being alive. They end up being parodies of my life in a way that makes me smile.
So, something that if you get like, we'll say Uncharted, and I don't want to crap all over the Uncharted series, but Uncharted, you never, like, it's a cinematic game, but you never feel like you're kind of breaking anything. You never feel like you're having freedom. It's just, I'm completing the inputs and I'm doing the right thing. Metal Gear Solid 3, you're like, whoa, can I do that? Did I do that? Wow, I can. Yeah. Can I try this? And it works.
Points of connection again. Yep, exactly right. Couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're done.
Yeah,
we're done.
Link's Awakening's a hell of a game. So, okay.
I agree. I feel like the Zelda series is such a hard thing to talk about because it's really, you want to rank the whole series is what you want to do, and you can't.
To each other. Yeah.
Right, you can't.
I'm the resident Zelda weeb out of this group. I guarantee it. No one's even gonna. Really...
Oh no! Well, if I'm part of the group for now, I would say they're like perfectly tied. Zelda 3 and Metal Gear Solid 3 are just like my sweet babies that I'm gonna be thinking about all night tonight after talking to you guys about it. Feels good.
Let's put it. Let's do it. Let's just seal it right there where it's been suggested. I can accept it.
It's shrink wrapped.
Right between.
All right.
SMB3 and Doom.
I feel weird about that.
Gotcha,
but yeah,
thank you.
I think it has to be.
All right.